Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Simply Local San Diego. I'm Brad Weber with Local Umbrella Media. We're here at the beautiful IQ Podcast Studios in Coronado. And our guest today is a second-time guest, Mr. Ron Donoho. Thanks for coming back.
Hey, Brad. Thanks for having me back.
Well, Ron was on a few weeks ago because he's a long-term, very established and well-known and respected journalist here in San Diego. And you recently got a grant from Facebook to start a online publication downtown, correct?
It's true. It's the Bulletin Program for independent journalists.
Okay.
And I am funded by Facebook/Meta.
Okay, great. Yeah, forget Facebook. One of these.
They were Facebook when they signed me, and then they switched over to Meta.
Oh, you were right through the transition.
Everything changed to Meta. Yeah.
Well, the show we did before was kind of a prelude to what we're doing, because I've known Ron for a long time. You've written articles for our hard copy newspapers that come in the mail every month here in San Diego, and always loved what you did. You wrote some great articles. We got some great feedback. So
I enjoy working with you.
Yeah, I kind of bugged you for a while. Like, when are we going to get this thing in print? You know, online is one thing, but let's get it in print. So finally, you got to the point where you said, let's give this a whirl, and we came out with our first issue. I did bring kind of a beat up issue. I'm sorry about that, but we just mailed last month our first edition of the Downtown Connector, which we're going to. The name of your online publication is the San Diego Sun.
The San Diego Sun, which focuses on downtown San Diego.
Right. So
and I had been freelancing for you for your various publications that blanket the city. And so, yeah, we decided to team up and use my copy from downtown to do a newspaper. And I'm excited to work with you on it.
Got it. So I've already got some great feedback. I know you did too, from a few people, influential people actually downtown, that their opinion means something, not only professionally, but personally, but serious players, and they like what they see. So people getting this in the mailbox downtown, we're going to expand and get more and more mailboxes downtown every month. So one of the things you do is Katie was on the cover, Katie Temple. She living in the city is one of your feature things that you do over and over.
Yeah. So since I started the San Diego Sun, one of the running features is a Q&A that we do with residents of downtown. And I really enjoy it. I mean, I have a questionnaire that I put together that I send out to people. In the beginning, it was friends, and then people would recommend others, and other people heard about it, and some people of some notoriety saw it and wanted to be involved. And you mentioned Katie Temple, super cool, lives downtown. She was a sports anchor on Fox TV before she went off and worked somewhere else, and now she's a media coach. But I asked specific questions on the questionnaire, but I leave space for people to talk about whatever they want to talk about.
Right.
And a lot of people, talk about some of the same things. Homelessness comes up because that is a factor in downtown. Of
course.
And I think we're actually going to do a separate podcast about that. So I won't talk about it too much.
It deserves its own special.
It does. It's a huge thing. But just to mention real briefly, Katie, wants to be safe but is compassionate, found one specific individual that she sort of befriended, and knows where he is, will walk by him and say, "Can I get you today?" And I thought that's fascinating. We got a lot of feedback on the fact that, you can't do everything, and you wonder what you should do in terms of giving out money or things. But she will, she knows this guy now, and they have a neighborhood type relationship, and she might take him into the 7-Eleven or do something like that. And that resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, no doubt. Oh, you can't fix all the problems, but you can fix one at a time, right?
You can do what you can. And just, to talk about some of the things that Katie talked about, she used to be a sportscaster. So Katie was living downtown when Petco Park first came into being, which was 2004. And Katie had some fun stories about interviewing the players. Bruce Bochy was there at the time. Trevor Hoffman was there. She had, she is a sports reporter, so she's on the field and in the locker room, and remembers what it was like before Petco and after Petco.
So how many of these people do you interview every month?
It differs. I don't overdo it with the content that we spread out, but I'd say there's always at least one and maybe 2 or 3 throughout the month.
Right.
One that recently just came out was very interesting. I think they're all interesting, whether they're people that maybe you've heard of, or whether it's someone who just happens to live in a neighborhood that you are interested to know more about. We've covered people that live in all the neighborhoods, from Little Italy to East Village to Marina to Core, Columbia, Cortez Hill. That's really been spread out. The most recent one, who is somewhat well known, is Julie Coker.
Oh yeah.
So Julie is the CEO of the San Diego Tourism Authority, and fascinating story. She lives in Little Italy. Previously, she was head of the tourism. I think it might be Convention and Visitors Bureau of Philadelphia. She took the job here somewhat right before COVID. And it was interesting that the former head of the tourism authority here and Julie decided to sort of stay in their respective cities to sort of help their own cities through COVID. Tourism was tanking, obviously. But eventually Julie came here and moved to Little Italy. And I love that. I love the fact that the person whose job it is to sell San Diego lives in downtown. I mean, that's what the San Diego Sun is all about.
Right.
And like everybody else, she talks about some of her favorite restaurants. She talks about the walkability of downtown. Fun story. She talks about walking past the county administration building and seeing some kids playing kickball. There's lawns that are out there.
Yeah. Brought her back to Philly.
Well, the kids, for somehow the kids said, "Hey, Miss, would you like to join us?" And she says she jumped in and had a great time playing kickball.
Wow.
With some kids that she just met in her neighborhood.
Well, welcome to town, Julie. That's a big responsibility. Tourism obviously is a huge part of San Diego, and drawing people here to, come and enjoy our beautiful place and spend a few dollars locally. That's a big part to what makes us all comfortable and thriving and all that stuff. So that's glad to have you, Julie.
Definitely. She was very cool, and she was very, candid. And I liked how she wrote, her advice was to spend time in your neighborhood and walk the streets and spend money locally. And then she also said, with her tourism hat on, make sure you're friendly to all the tourists that are walking around, so they'll come back again and again and again. So
it's a big deal.
I like how she lived. She gave sort of a live work message. Sorry, but yeah, we recently had Rob Quigley, the architect. He and his wife, Kathleen Hanahan, who's also an architect. And I loved their history with downtown, because if anybody doesn't know, Rob Quigley was the designer behind the downtown library, the big domed building with multi-stories. And he's been an architect of note for decades. And he's built residential and there are a couple firehouses around town, and just like hundreds of projects he's been involved with. But he and Kathleen moved to Little Italy back in the 70s when there was nothing there. Again, kids playing soccer in the streets, in the dimly lit streets, and nothing like the entertainment district that Little Italy is today.
Right.
But they recall when the day would shut down and businessmen would go home, they'd put out roadblocks on their street. I think they were on State Street, sort of closer to the Marina District, and they'd have parties with their friends and the creative types, and they write about this. And they sent me just the coolest picture from the 70s of people with the hairstyles of the 70s posing for a picture, and there were a couple of motorcycle police posing with them, and their comment was that the cops were glad to see people were there,
like you said,
being in the neighborhood,
coming back to communities and people knowing each other and having fun together and protecting each other and respecting each other and all the things it seems like should be a standard or a normal thing, but it's kind of unusual now. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
Julie lives that
Julie does,
mantra.
and lots of people do. And I got to say, one of the people that I found that was willing to do I think we mentioned it's called Living in the City, the Q&A in the San Diego Sun. But Sal Giametta, who was a longtime civil servant, worked in the mayor's office, previous mayor, worked for Ron Roberts on also in local government. Actually, it's funny because he also worked for when San Diego was called Conviz. He was in there for, I think, about a decade. But he's retired, and he lives in Little Italy also. And I saw him on Facebook and all of our social media because he spends his spare time. He bought a camera, and he walks around and he takes portraits of people.
Yeah, and he's good.
I mean,
He's
some people take pictures of events and long back. His specialty is people's faces.
Yeah.
And really like getting the story from people's faces. And I asked him to do a profile, and he did it, and he provided an amazing history because he knows so much about city projects that are happening, and he was sharing about that. But after we worked on that project, I said, "Hey, would you want to do photo essays of various things?" And we collaborated on 4th of July. He went and shot some things for Pride. And his photos are amazing.
They're amazing.
And so it was, so doing that profile was a great way to meet him, and he became available for other things. And we have a really fun working relationship, and he continues to shoot photos for San Diego Sun.
Go on the website, SanDiegoSun.com, right? And you'll see Sal's quite a few of his photos from time to time. So I check it out. I'm on your email list, so I get your emails, and that's sometimes it's an update of what Sal's put on the site. So yeah, the great thing about the website is, it's dynamic. You can update it every day and get new stuff on there all the time. The print end of it, we combined it to get it, something hard copies, and people not only remind them to go back to the website because people forget very easily, and but also kind of highlight some of it and sometimes go more in depth from what you're doing on.
Well, you're right. Yeah, this is online, and I think it's scrolling there on the screen, SanDiegoSun.bulletin.com. But I like the model that you do.
Yep.
And you've been successful around town, and this is your not your first foray into downtown, but one of the first. And I'm really happy to partner with you, and because you go into direct mail into people's homes.
We do, but we preach the same. The speech is community, small town, take care of each other, all the stuff Julie's talking about and what we've been talking about. So we just do it in a different way, but the combination of the two makes it very effective, not only for people to remember to go meet their neighbors, read about their neighbors, that type of thing, don't forget. And also, for advertisers and things to reach people, because you got to reach them in different ways, not only online, but in print and direct mail, and all that stuff's effective. But the combination is really where the sweet sauce is, and it makes it all work.
Yeah. I mean, the stories are there. There are a million stories to tell. It's just a matter of getting those stories out there. Gotcha. I could talk about numerous things that often pop up when people do their living in the city profiles. I mean, I'm not sure how much time we have left, but
we've got a few minutes. Go ahead.
Oh, shoot.
If it's interesting.
Well, scooters is always a big thing.
It is a big thing.
Yeah. I use scooters, so I'm glad that they're there. I know there are a lot of people that hate them and like really passionately hate them, and stepped forward and spoke to the city, and the city responded actually. And as a scooter user, I'm embarrassed for the knuckleheads that go up on the sidewalks and go the wrong way on the streets. I mean, I don't do that, and I discourage that. I will say that the scooters are kept more in mass and not left around like they used to be. I mean, there's still incidents here and there. But they're corralled, and I'm sorry that it had to take people stepping up like that, but as a user, I'm glad they didn't do away with scooters.
It's a great tool, and the thing, in my opinion, the thing about scooters, you didn't need a license, right? I mean, we have the same thing with the bicycles. there's great bicyclists
the e-bikes,
and
you mean?
jerk bike.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no, and bicycles in
either.
general. You know,
Yeah.
some people just hate bicyclists because there's some really bad ones out there that don't pay attention to the rules. They hog the road and they aren't polite. Same thing with motorcycles. Same thing with cars. Same thing with lots of things. But scooters, you don't need a license, so any kid could get on a scooter, and it just you don't have that barrier to responsibility that you have with at least a motorcycle or even a bicycle.
I mean, the protests got the number of scooters in downtown reduced.
Yeah.
So overall, there are less. You know, I had signed up for Bird. It seemed like Bird went away.
I think they did go. I don't
but
know.
Now they're back.
Oh, they're back. Okay.
And so I did have to use my license to resubscribe to the app.
Okay.
So I know that is in place now.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like scooters or bikes or picking up after your dog, you know, we're all living in close quarters in downtown. So let's, you know, like they say, let's all get along.
It comes down to the same thing of being responsible and respectful, right?
Right.
You know, if we all do that, but there's always a few. So it's a matter of if it gets out of control, you know, the government, the city steps in, and they did a good job with scooters, as they took a good thing and kind of made it a little bit better for all of us. Not that everyone's thrilled with it, but it's certainly better than it was, because you don't trip over them everywhere you go, and you don't see lots of when they first came out. I mean, there were a lot of really idiots out there. Sorry to say.
Yeah, I will say, in this case with scooters, the city has stepped in and made a difference, which I would applaud.
Yeah, I agree. So I think it's better from what I see. So anyway, well, our shows are kind of short, so you just touch on a few highlights, but go to Ron's website. It's scrolling along the screen. You have also sign up for your emails, right? You can sign up for an email.
You can sign up on the website. Yes.
Right. So you'll get an email update.
It's free. It's free.
Everything's free. Yeah. So even the newspapers are free. You don't have to pay for them, but you'll get those once a month. Right now we mail to part of downtown. We're going to gradually expand and hit more and more homes down there. So let us know if you want to get it. We'll put you on the list. We will have subscriptions very soon also. But Ron Donoho, thanks for being here. Thanks for writing some great articles. Always great to work with you. And we'll see you next time.
Always
That's
a pleasure.
our show. Simply Local San Diego. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.